Welcome to Focus on Buddhism. Last week, Bhikkhu Bodhi concluded his talk on the Four Noble Truths, the fundamental principles around which the Buddha's teachings are formed. With this basic understanding of these principles, we can now investigate how they can be applied to our daily life. How can we overcome the suffering and unsatisfactoriness that we continually experience? The Buddha stated that the solution to this problem lies within our own minds. He said, the mind is the forerunner of all things. Thus, the basic approach to leading out of dukkha lies in the purification and cultivation of our own minds. Tonight, our speaker, Phra Khantipalo, will be taking a comprehensive look at the subject of mind. Phra Khantipalo is the abbot of Wat Buddha Dharma, a forest monastery and meditation centre at Wiseman's Ferry. This talk was produced by Mr. John Merson as a part of the ABC series Wisdom of the East. We wish to thank the producer and the ABC for their kind permission to broadcast this talk. Here's Phra Khantipalo, Buddha Points to the Mind.
How could something which was experienced 2,500 years ago in India have anything to say to us today? But the Buddha does indeed have something to say. It's something very important. And I hope to bring that out in the course of this talk. Now, the Buddha, we call him the enlightened one, the awakened one. What he basically awakened to was the source of all the problems and difficulties and troubles that people experience. The source of a great deal of these difficulties and problems lies in people's minds. And he found the cause of those problems, and through peaceful meditation and through insight meditation, he was able to eradicate the cause. And having eradicated the cause, he got rid of the effect. That is, the effect of trouble, the effect of conflict within. So he was truly a person with a calm heart, with a peaceful heart. A person who was not self-centered, but centered for the benefit of other beings generally. He didn't have any idea of self or ego. He had got rid of that completely. Now we think of ourselves, we can see that there's a different picture there. We're not people generally with very peaceful minds. If you want to check out whether your mind is peaceful or not, just sit down in a comfortable chair and just look at your own mind. Close your eyes and just do it for 2 or 3 minutes and see what extraordinary things the mind can ramble through in the course of 2 or 3 minutes. If, of course, your mind would stay just where you were, just sitting there calmly and peacefully in the chair, that's not doing too bad. But generally, mind doesn't do like that. Mind takes off into the past and the future and fantasies and ideas and cravings and desires and all sorts of things like this. These are the cause of an unpeaceful heart. So we find that ourselves, inside, we are not peaceful. We have conflicts because of our lack of inner peace. We can learn a lot from the Buddha and his path of training, his path of self-training. I think people today are very open to the Buddha's message because it's not a message which depends upon faith. The Buddha doesn't ask people to believe in him or to surrender to him or anything of this sort. The Buddha asks people to understand. If a person truly understands about the source of trouble in their own minds, then they will be willing to do something about themselves. So the source of trouble there, what can we do about it? Well, before answering that question, perhaps it's better to say something about the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is a series of changing processes, quickly changing indeed. The mind changes with extraordinary rapidity. So fast indeed that we're hardly aware of its changeful nature. But the person who starts to meditate becomes more and more aware of the changeful nature of the mind. This changing mind, which we're not very much aware of, contains all sorts of different thoughts, some of them wholesome, some of them unwholesome. They're all sort of mixed up. They arise due to various circumstances in the outside world. They may last for many thought moments, or they may decline quite quickly. The mind, the changing mind then, has both wholesome and unwholesome things there. The wholesome things should be encouraged. The unwholesome should be understood so that they lose their power, lose their effect. Now, unwholesome means that the mind is darkened and the other people are harmed if those thoughts result in speech and action. While wholesome means one's mind is brightened, one becomes more intelligent and alert, and other people may benefit, may bring happiness to others. So how is one to both root out the unwholesome as well as cultivating the wholesome? The answer to this is the keystone, or the cornerstone of the Buddha's teachings, and that's called mindfulness. This principle of mindfulness is quite a natural thing. Everybody has a certain degree of mindfulness already. If we didn't have mindfulness, we couldn't accomplish anything. The fact that we have mindfulness means that we are actually able to do things, to go places, to meet people, and we are able to finish off what we do, not to forget things, not to make mistakes, not to cause breakages, have accidents. All this is because of mindfulness. When there's a lack of mindfulness, all these things happen. And a lack of mindfulness means generally a lack of awareness. Awareness, this general awareness for everyday life, means that one is aware of what one's doing while one's actually doing it. There is a recent small Buddhist publication, I remember, where there was a section on washing the dishes while washing the dishes. This is the thing. If you're daydreaming while washing the dishes, or if you're thinking about something in the past or the future while washing the dishes, then the dishes get broken. But if one is washing the dishes while washing the dishes, that is, one's mind is clear and peaceful, not worried, not concerned, and not bored either. It is such a humdrum job. Oh, I've done it 1,000 times already. Why shouldn't I be bored then? Oh, boredom is just an unwholesome state of mind. It's much better to have a bright state of mind. And if one's mind is just clear and still and peaceful while washing the dishes, or while cleaning the house, or while washing the car down, or while cutting the grass in the lawn, or whatever, ordinary simple jobs, this is a great help. This is the way to train the mind. And the more of this mindfulness that one has in everyday life, the more valuable it is for one's clarity and peacefulness inside. So this is something to do at all times. When you're getting up, when you're putting on the clothes, when you go to the bathroom, when you're eating food, when you're by yourself, when you're talking to other people. Whatever you're doing, as much mindfulness as possible. That means all those things like fantasies and future and past excursions, which are quite useless and a waste of time, that's all escapes from actually being here and now. It's easy to talk about being here and now, and everybody repeats such a catchphrase. But this is the way to do it, to have more mindfulness. And then, of course, mindfulness is also encouraged by meditation. Meditation, that means the methods which have been followed throughout the ages by the Buddha and his disciples down to the present in Southeast Asia. It means the principle of making the mind clear and one-pointed. Clear and calm and one-pointed. Doesn't mean going to sleep. Doesn't mean going into a mindless trance. It doesn't mean having nothing in the mind. But it means the mind having only one object continuously. Like the breath, for instance. Now here we are breathing in and out all day. We never took very much notice of the breath. But you see, the breath is a very important thing. When people are emotionally disturbed, you see their breath. Their breath comes and goes irregularly. Or when they've been exerting themselves physically, then the breathing is deep. And when they're concentrated over doing some fine work, then the breath is fine. This indicates that there's a very close connection between the breath and the mind. So therefore, many meditators in Asia and these days in Australia too, they use the breath as the way to calm down the mind. And just as being mindful of walking or any other action in daily life is not an artificial thing, just a natural development of those activities, so also being mindful of one's breath is not an artificial thing either. And that too is quite a natural development. So the meditator sits and becomes mindful of the breath. And this calms down the mind. The mind can become very calm and clear and one-pointed. And the people who experience this, they experience a kind of bliss and peacefulness, which is unknown to most people. Some people, they get a flash of it when, for instance, they might be in beautiful surroundings, some beautiful scenery, top of a high mountain, or something exhilarating in nature, might be also caused by music occasionally, but they usually don't know how to repeat that experience. And in the case of relying on music, well, one's relying on something external there. Whereas with meditation, well, you see, you've got the source of that experience with you all the time. This points out a very important feature of the Buddha's teachings. That is that whatever arises due to causes and conditions. Whatever happens is causally conditioned. So if one wants certain states of mind to occur, then one must set up the right causes for them to occur. Now, just at the moment, for instance, there's a recording going on. So the right kind of studio and microphone and machinery is necessary for that to be done successfully. And we are quite acquainted with this principle with regard to material things. But we don't think, strangely enough, that the mind also works causally. Well, it does. And if one makes good causes, if one makes wholesome causes in the mind, Buddhists call them kamma or karma, you make wholesome karma, then you get a good result. So if one sits down to meditate, or one is mindful at one's work, as much as possible, that's making wholesome karma. That's a good cause. A good cause produces a good result. It produces the result of clarity and peacefulness. It also produces the result of calm. Now one can go on calming the mind for a long time. There's no end to calming the mind and concentrating it. Mystics can go into most subtle states of meditation. But the Buddha has something more to say. And what he has to say is very important. That is, even though one calms the mind down a great deal, one still hasn't uncovered the fundamental mistakes. And the fundamental things that one has to know about are just 3 in number. You see, you will all immediately say yes if I say all conditioned things are impermanent. Because all the things that you know in this life, which are conditioned by material and mental factors, they all arise and pass away. So impermanence is obviously a part of this life. But people don't accept that it is. They cling to permanence, like this body, for instance. People cling to this body as though it was permanent, and when their own bodies or somebody else's bodies get injured or get old or die, then they become disturbed. They get a lot of suffering and pain through that. But I mean, that's the nature of it all. It's all impermanent. So that means that we're not living with the real, with what really is. We're living with what really isn't, that is permanence. This mind is changing all the time. This body is changing all the time. Everything that we perceive is changing all the time. We make decisions all the time which change our futures. And yet we seek for permanence in all this. How can that be? So then that points at material things are the wrong place to look for security. And isn't that what materialism is all about? Piling up possessions to find security? So, all conditioned things are impermanent. That should be looked into. That should be penetrated with a calm and concentrated mind, in one's own mind and body. And then all conditioned things are, I'm going to use a Pali word now, all conditioned things are dukkha. You see this translated as suffering, but it's not good like that. All conditioned things are dukkha. That means everything that's conditioned, everything we experience by eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, arises because of conditions. It's impermanent. What is impermanent is not reliable. It's not secure. So we can't say that everything that we experience like that is suffering. That's nonsense. We get a lot of happiness and joy in this life. But it's dukkha, everything that is experienced, dukkha, for sure, because things are not secure there. And then finally, the idea that there is an owner, a person who owns this mind and body, that needs looking into too. Everybody thinks somehow that there really is a person called whatever your name is. But when you come to think about it, how can that be? Because there's this body here. Does that mean that that's you? Is the body you? When one of those days, you're going to find out that the body isn't you. As the body is going to get so old or so sick or so knocked about that it becomes impossible as a vehicle for life. So then you're going to find out the body isn't you. So it's much better to find out while one's alive and well, rather than when one's not so well and forced to find out. Yes, so that means that body is not self. Not myself, not my soul, not my essence. Well then people say, well, my soul or my essence really is in my mind. Really? Whoever found a soul or essence or self in their minds? If you look in the mind, you see what you find there. You find changeable phenomena. Changing and changing and changing. Thoughts arise and pass away, of all kinds. Feelings arise and pass away. Different states of consciousness arise and pass away. perceptions, memories, identification processes arise and pass away. Don't find anything else except things which arise and pass away in the mind. So where's this permanent self? So that's a hard one to swallow, because that really gets at people's sense of ego. Now the Buddha says the whole trouble is the idea of I am. And the idea of I am is actually fostered by reference to this mind and body as self. If people didn't look at their minds and bodies as I am, in the sense of I am this, I am that, I am superior, I am equal, I am inferior, they wouldn't have any trouble anymore. But they do look at things in this way, and so again they don't live with what is real. So the result in the Buddha's case, and the result in other enlightened people's case, the people who have followed him down through the ages, is that they have no sense of I am, they have no sense of self, they have discovered not self in mind and body, they have no craving or greed and desire, and they are completely without completely without selfishness and egocentricity. To meet such people as that, of course, is a really wonderful experience. Now, there aren't too many of them in the world, but there are still some, especially in Buddhist countries down to the present day. This is the general direction that Buddhism leads in. It leads in to discovering what the Buddha discovered about oneself, about how to govern the mind through meditation, so that it becomes peaceful, and how to then to examine with that peacefulness the impermanence of everything, both physical and mental, and to see how everything physical and mental which arises and passes away is dukkha, or unsatisfactory. And having seen so, to relinquish grasping at all that, and having relinquished grasping, to penetrate not self. But to come back from those things, let us begin with the ordinary, everyday things that we can do. What about a bit more mindfulness? What about a little more awareness at our works? So that we don't get into so many hassles, so many quarrels, so much wrong talk. If we get down to that, we shall be doing quite well. At any rate, we shall make for some peace between other people in that way, and we shall make for some peace in our own hearts. And we shall awaken more understanding. One shouldn't believe things. One should understand them. This is a very important thing. One shouldn't believe, one should understand.
Turn the light around, shine it on the mind ground, listen to your own sound, that's where joy can be found. In people's faces I can read a book of endless misery. Turn and run till I can run no more. The Buddha's wisdom is a treasury. The Dharma's light shines bright
brings to a close tonight's program. We would like to inform our listeners that tonight's speaker, Phra Khantipalo, conducts regular meditation retreats at Wat Buddha Dharma in Wiseman's Ferry. These retreats are designed for absolute beginners as well as for more advanced meditators and are conducted on a voluntary contribution basis. If you are interested, please ring Wat Buddha Dharma on 043 731193 in the mornings only. Also, meditation and chanting is conducted every evening at Wat Buddha Rangsi, 88 Stanmore Road, Stanmore, from 6:30 p.m. A few vacancies are still available for the 28-day retreat to be conducted by Venerable U Pandita Sayadaw in November. Those who wish to take part in the retreat for 14 days are also welcome. Please ring 042 673240. I'll repeat the telephone numbers once again. Wat Buddha Dharma at Wiseman's Ferry, 043 731193. Ring only during the mornings. Wat Buddha Rangsi for daily meditation, 512039. 28 or 14-day retreat with Venerable U Pandita Sayadaw, 042 673240. We also have a few copies of the Buddha Dharma Society's latest newsletter. If you would like a copy, ring 797-8085. 797-8085. This program was brought to you by the Buddha Dharma Society of Sydney and sponsored by Mr. Michel de Grief. May you all be well and happy.
The Buddha's wisdom is a treasury. The Dharma's light shines bright on me. Head in the clouds, feet on the other shore. Turn the light around. Shine it on the mind ground. Listen to your own sound. That's where joy can be found. Morning sunrise, clear and blue skies, over mountains filled with golden light. Wisdom's real prize within yourself lies. Cultivate it here by day and night. Turn the light around. Shine it on the mind ground. Listen to your own sound. That's where joy